In a week where we've had unionization or further developments of that within Paizo, where you can buy a life-sized, pre-order at least, a life-sized statue of Drigst from WizKids for best part of $2,000. And where I've had far more in the post than I really should have done. I guess it's a good opportunity for us to talk about reducing our bank balances even more, spending money on things that we don't necessarily need, and anticipating the fact that Cyborg is coming out very soon onto Kickstarter tomorrow, in fact, which means we can't talk about it today, but we can talk about a whole load of other stuff. So with Devious Dungeons, Foreboding Forests, and the Coolest Cats, my name's Phil. Welcome to the Dark Orb. How's it going? Martin, thanks for joining.
You're welcome. I am. It's going well. It's Friday, which is always
Friday,
a good.
My goodness, I'm so pleased it's
Always.
Friday. It has been a long week.
Yes.
It's quite an interesting week, actually. As I said, a few things have come in the post, and actually a couple of those things I showed on camera last week. But I have the nerd cam all set up this time around, so we can have a look in better visibility. Nothing technically new has arrived for me. Lots of, several things that are established products, shall we say, either things that came out a little while ago, only took a while for me to pick them up, or things that came out quite some time ago, but it took me a while to order them and have them arrive. We'll talk about those in a bit, but I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if you saw, I mentioned it in the lead-in, that WizKids are releasing a 5'7" or so Drist miniature. It's not really a miniature, is it? Model. It's not like me to really talk about these things, and we both know that I'm not a hugest fan of D&D stuff, but I saw this on one of the many sites that I use when I'm collating for this show, and I have to show you because I think it's one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in a really long time. It's a foam statue. Let me get rid of.
Does it also come unpainted?
I've got no idea. And
for those that want to paint it.
How do I get rid of this cookies bollocks? I don't want cookies bollocks. No. Screw it. Yeah. Foam statue. Ooh, you can put the hood on.
Ooh.
Yay.
5'7" inches.
I mean, I suppose it's good for cosplay stuff if the other things are removable. It's 21 kilos with the box. So, I mean, I've had monitors that weigh more than that.
Yeah.
But I just, yeah.
What's it actually? Does it say what it's... Oh, did you say it was foam?
Yes, apparently foam.
Foam, right.
So you can imagine how badly that's going to get damaged the first time you have guests.
My God. Right. That is...
How about a hard pass?
Yeah, definitely. That goes in the same box as the non-transforming Transformers chest for me.
Oh, yeah. Except this
which is a very hard pass.
This is twice the price.
My God.
So, I mean, that was my main digression. I saw that earlier on today, and I just thought, oh my God, I mustn't forget how ridiculous this product is and how much I want to talk about it. Let's say hello to we are live, so hello to everyone who's joined us this evening. We've got Sanjuro, Jason, Andy, Raggle, Neil, good to see you, Mohammed, Bruce. We've got two Bruces on tonight. Let's see what people are saying. CDR on a bank balance, that's a good thing, right? Drift, the Fill Edition. If it was the Fill Edition, it would probably be fully articulated, and it would have a removable knife. It does not have. I mean, it probably does. I mean, it's made of foam. Removable swords. I mean, they're made of foam, so you could remove them just by getting your Dremel out quite easily. Oh yeah, Bruce. Yeah, it's a licensed product through WizKids. It's on shop.wizkids.com. Check it out if you want to cry. $1,700 for a foam statue of a and 5'7". Is that really life size? I guess so.
Yeah, I think
thought they'd be taller than that.
I think Dark Elf Heights in the Forgotten Realms is around that. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's yeah, that's quite. I would be very interested once that is actually released. How many people
I think
put money down for that?
Honestly, I think it will be very popular in the same way.
Yeah, too many is what I was going to say.
I mean, bearing in mind how much people pay for Dungeons and Dragons in a castle, right? Which is basically, I think I'm paraphrasing. I'm not going to look it up. I want to say it was like $3,500 just for the main deposit. It was something ridiculous. So, check it out.
Yeah,
it's not aimed at us. Let's put it that way.
No, I mean, isn't it aimed at people that desperately want to play with like famous D&D streamers as well? Aren't there people going to be there
absolutely.
and stuff?
Yeah, the D&D in the castle.
I mean, I just want to play fantasy games. I don't really care who I'm playing with. You know what I mean? It's like
exactly
it doesn't matter whether they're famous or not. I just want to play games with friends.
A good gamer is a good gamer, and it doesn't matter who they are. And
good gamer is someone who plays games.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I really love about. For anyone who doesn't know, we have a Discord, and we do try and as a group of people, we've got games that we play, and we try and invite people to them. Maybe not as much as we'd like. Most of the stuff that I run, for example, will get recorded for the show, even if it doesn't necessarily get used immediately. And we're all busy professionals, but you want to kind of gravitate towards people who are playing because they want to play the game, not because they're trying to necessarily make a name for themselves doing so. It depends also on what your business is, I guess, to be fair. Some of the most wonderful people I know in gaming have managed to turn it into a career, and that's awesome. I don't think I could do it. I think I would lose my love for the hobby. That's why I didn't start doing professional barbecue or anything like that as well, as do something you love too much and it can become unenjoyable, depending on what it is.
Unenjoyable barbecue?
No. Yeah, it's because proper barbecue takes an awful lot of prep. I would show you, but you don't live anywhere near here, so
yeah, unfortunately.
A good friend of mine wanted to come over and for us to cook beef brisket, which in principle I have no problem with. Bless him, he hadn't quite clocked, and we didn't do it in the end because he hadn't quite clocked that it takes you about an hour or two to actually prepare the brisket, but then you have to cook it for 12 to 18 hours. That's not just nip over and we'll cook a brisket.
Yeah, that's nip over, realize how long it takes, order a takeaway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whole new version of merchandise. Yeah, maybe we need a I don't know, Dark Orb foam Martin. There we go.
just talks non-stop, just doesn't shut up.
Yeah, it would have to be like a Teddy Ruxpin. We'll need a cassette in the back.
You have to punch it in the stomach to make it talk.
To make it shut up.
It can also be a therapeutic doll. Just if you're feeling a little bit of anger boiling up, just go and give your foam Martin a punch in the stomach. It'll make you feel better.
I mean, this
indie RPGs.
This is sounding terribly existential for a while now. We've taken a dark turn.
I got something in the post if you want to kind of get back.
Yeah, let's do that, and I'll go through the things that I got as well.
I only got one thing.
Do I need to embiggen you?
You can embiggen me, Phil. You always embiggen me, Phil. I got.
Oh, I'm so jealous just from seeing that part.
I got the very last of the old school essentials advanced fantasy Kickstarter, which is Holy. Oh, I'll move my finger. Holy Mountain Shaker. and I only picked it up about 5 o'clock Swedish time, 4 o'clock English time, and
Other times I
had a quick flick through it, and it looks really good. It looks like it was well worth the wait, to be honest.
See, I intentionally didn't get on the OSE bandwagon because I kind of felt like, what's the point? We've got Dungeon Crawl Classics, we've got Merkbury. It's a mistake, I think, from my perspective. I think I should have listened to my inner spendthrift and just jumped on.
They are doing a new Kickstarter at the beginning of next year. I think it's like January, February time for boxed sets of both the classic and the advanced. So yeah,
I think I might be. Well, obviously we're going to cover it on the show. We'll see how it goes, but there is a chance that it might end up going onto my list. We'll see. What did I receive? So I showed a couple of these things last episode, but I didn't have the other camera set up. So let's have a little look see. So I got the Wilderness Book of Battle Mats, and I'm pretty impressed with it. We over the weekend we finished the first book of Simbaram's Throne of Thorns campaign. It was a shorter campaign called the Wrath of the Warden, which is part of the great overarching saga, if you like. And didn't really use too much of this actually, because that's set in the main town of Thistlehold. But the next part of the saga that we're going to will be in the Forest of Davokar, and a lot of that story is set in the Forest of Davokar. So this is what I got, and I thought it'd be cool just to show for anyone who doesn't know what these are all about. So obviously you can't see too much here, but for anyone who for some reason has missed these products, and I can't imagine there's many of us, basically you get 2 books. Here's one of them, and the books are kind of interesting because if you open them up, let's see if I can get a decent. I can't zoom out anymore, unfortunately, on this camera. I didn't think to put it on a pedestal. But basically, the way it works is you've got various maps, and you can see how in the middle at the top you've got a gap, a walkway, and the same on the right. And what's great about these is they're actually kind of designed so that, to an extent, a lot of the pages can actually be joined together. I mean, obviously it depends on context. You can put this right next to land, for example. But when you've got something that's got some pathways on it, it works pretty well. So, for example, if I grab that and then I open another book, let's see what we can find.
Yeah, and the spreads on each page matches up with the spreads in the other one. So
yeah, so you could quite easily say here, like the forest breaks out, and then you get to a clearing. It's quite a lot of slowdown on this camera.
So I think like page 1 and 2 in book 1 match with page 1 and 2 in book 2.
Yes, absolutely, and we can demonstrate that. So you can make a nice big. Hang on. I'm going the wrong way. I'm like, that doesn't look right. That's a fiery inferno. That doesn't match.
Well,
so here's 1 and 2 from the other book. There we go.
Yeah.
But so you can quite easily do like a nice big layout, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Should have guessed it would be 12. So it's 12 inches per side. So you can have a good 24 by 24, which is large enough for many smallish gaming tables, or you can buy more sets. Bruce says like that. Did you pick up the Unknown Encounters book from them too? I actually didn't. I'm not sure why. I think I kind of looked at it and thought, I'll never use that. I did get I haven't opened it yet. The Wilderness edition of the little book. I also got, and I'm not going to bother getting it down, but I've got the Town and Taverns double book, which I ordered and actually arrived last Friday, maybe, or last Thursday. Because, as I said, we were setting this game in Thistlehold. So this is that sort of stuff. Much more.
And again, those spreads match with the ones in the big books.
They do indeed.
So they're really good products. I got the Dungeon and I got the Towns and Taverns. I didn't back at Kickstarter for this one, but I am going to buy it retail from a shop in Sweden.
From your friendly local game store.
Exactly. From your friendly local gaming store.
I was going to say, there's nothing local. You know, the local game store is your gaming room.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. No, from Alpha Spiel, which is Joel's one.
Even I have nearly bought stuff from Alpha Spiel.
Yeah.
Because they are awesome. I'm just going to put these. Yeah, no, I'm not. Too much effort. The other thing I got. And Bruce says if you have the Dungeon book set, you can merge those too. Alpha Spell, yes.
Oh,
Oddsert.
Nice. I got my copy upstairs. I pulled it out after you were talking about it.
We're still talking about Oddsert, yeah.
We can be talking about whatever you want, Phil.
I love the write-up on the back of this. Humanity has reached the stars. An alien plague. Let me change my camera because that's a really boring thing to be looking at. An alien plague without a cure threatens civilization. Only a few tragic heroes can save mankind. Now, I haven't gotten very far through this at all, which is a travesty. And I'll show you why it's a travesty just with a quick flick through. Can't move the microphone because there's a laptop in the way. Look at this layout. I mean, it's just super cool. I mean, Martin, you've actually read some of this, so I think you're going to be in a better place to comment on it.
I mean, probably not that much more than you. I
read the back.
Yeah. I mean, it runs on Mithras,
which I don't know at all as a system.
Familiar with it. I mean, it's I got it. I will have to admit, I got it purely for aesthetic reasons.
Who can blame you? There's so many pages as well.
I had a flick through, and it just so much of the artwork and a little bits of the flavor text at the beginning really kind of drew me in, and it just it speaks to me as a game. I really like it, and a lot of games that I buy tend to be like inspiration material, even if I'm not going to run them. And that book is just full of it. So
yeah, the reason why I picked it up is that I saw Niels Hintze wrote on, I think, Facebook in one of the TTRPG groups. He mentioned, or maybe on his writer page actually, he wrote that he is working on a campaign for next year for Oddsert. Now, anyone who doesn't know Niels Hintze, he wrote Tales from the Loop, the RPG. Obviously not the originator of the material, but wrote the book, and I believe that the system worked that out, and the scenarios that are there, at least a large number of them. Also Versen, he did as well. I know he's also written a campaign for Cult, Divinity Lost. That's not hit Kickstarter yet. I think that's because Helmgast wanted to be done with their current Kickstarter, which is taking a little bit longer to fulfill than they originally planned. I'm really excited for that to arrive. We had great fun. Well, I had great fun anyway with Gallery of Souls, which, if you haven't seen, we've got a playlist on YouTube for that. It is a horror scenario. It's not too bad, actually. We didn't get too much into the realms of nasty body horror or anything like that, but it's certainly not a story for kids. But it was great fun, and it was a really interesting, different game for me to run, that sort of style. We'll have more things like Cult of Cthulhu and stuff like that in time. But yeah, Niels Hintze is writing an Oddsert campaign, and what I didn't get to was that it's a role-playing game of mystery and investigation set in an alternate Earth in the 1920s. Mankind has traveled into space, found alien civilizations, but a disease called the soot spreads, driving those infected into madness. And they follow a twisted logic, wreaking havoc around them. I love alt history stuff because you've got that historical element which we can kind of empathize with, which I actually find really difficult with science fiction, futuristic role-playing games. I find sometimes a little bit of a challenge to find a grounding in. Certainly as a player, maybe not so much as a GM, because you kind of have more. Unless you're kind of creating the whole thing yourself, you have a lot more foundational grounding in actually the role-playing book itself, the rule book. But as a player, you don't tend to have all of that information. It can take a little bit longer to get your head around that. But when you've got something that's alt history, I think it's a little bit easier to ground it, especially for those of us who are a little bit older, a little bit closer to the 1920s ourselves.
Yeah, I think as well. I think Frostbite Books, Clarence Ried. I think he's a Swede, so I think the link there might well be that they run in the same circles, because I think Mithras is based on BRP as well, isn't it?
I haven't even got that far. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. So we've got that BRP, the Dark Orb link going back as well, if that's the case. And I think I was just thinking about this, as I said, about being closer to the 1920s than maybe some newer gamers. Maybe the appeal, I'm just self-psychoanalyzing here, maybe the appeal is that we remember not having internet and having to go to a payphone if we wanted to call someone, and that we're already kind of grounded in analog. So maybe that's an appeal, at least for me, in that you have to go there. And it's that appeal to tradition almost. Bruce says, I remember the 1920s like it was last year. Or the 20s like it was last year, shall we say. Well, it was.
You know what, Phil?
Just about the 20s.
I'm going to turn that light because it's really bugging me that it's shining on my feed. So just hang on.
So it's shining on your feet. Andy says, Mithras design mechanism who used to have the RuneQuest license. That makes sense. Payphone, I used to send a man on a horse with a piece of parchment. Just the one. That's not very effective.
That's why they got him to
butlers and COVID. That was the 20s. Flappers, butlers, and COVID. First time I read that as butters, I'm sure. Butter and COVID. Everyone's favorite lunchtime.
I mean, there's a reason that Andy wrote for Desanction. It's because he was actually there at the time. So
it was a novel new product, game. Speaking of Desanction, we're going to talk about next week. We're going to talk about the Cthulhu Hack. That should be fun.
Same author, right?
Same author, yes.
Yeah.
Paul Baldowski, lovely guy. We've got an interview way back in the archives from last year. When the Desanction was funding, and just a top guy, and the stuff that he puts out is really nice. And his wife pretty much runs All Rolled Up. It's a venture that they do together, family business, and I love All Rolled Up. They do some great stuff. So I'm really looking forward to talking about that. But that's next week. I think that's everything that I can talk about here. This did arrive before the last show, the Genesis in Thy Blood, which is the almost impossible to get hold of first campaign book. Hardly any pages, considering how much it was. But we know the Genesis is expensive. However, I'm not going to talk about that in any further detail because I'm hoping that the rest of the books will show up. It should have been dispatched by now, but I know that there's some print delays. I had pre-orders for the last thing that they were making. What are we going to talk about first? There's some really cool stuff going on.
There are so many Kickstarters at the minute, but
I know
we are focused on 3. So
we're focused on 3. There may be some time for a couple more. there's some really cool stuff. So first of all, please have a look through Kickstarter and check out all the stuff that's under the tabletop gaming section. There's some really cool stuff by some really great independent artists. Way more than we can cover today, because we like to talk. Because we've been going now for nearly half an hour and we haven't touched anything new apart from a silly foam statue.
See, this time it's not me that's diverting us onto like other things. It's what is Andy going on about? Cult of Bees.
He's obsessed
Anyway.
with an in joke from about 3 months ago. The Book of Bees, which was the Book of Beasts, which is the Forbidden Lands.
Which the backer kit went out for, didn't it?
Yes, yeah, I've sorted all mine out.
Yes, me
Gonna
too.
get yet another ridiculously large Forbidden Lands map on fabric that's too big to mount.
I haven't gone for those because what I'm hoping is when they finally do all of the areas, they'll do a cloth map that has all of them on it.
Yeah, it's not impossible.
Fingers crossed, because
I've
I'm
got
not
the
going to have
first
space
two.
for all of them.
I've got the first two, and I'm not exaggerating. I have scoured Amazon and other even actual frame makers, and basically you can't get tapestry hangers of that size. So all you can do is either manually make one, which then means sewing into the damn thing yourself, because these things are huge. Or you can get a frame made. I was quoted £700 for a frame.
What?
That was the cheapest that they could do.
If it's a bespoke frame, that's fine. That's
yeah, I know, but it's like
something.
4 bits of wood and a bit of hardboard and some glass. I don't want anything fancy. I just want something that will fucking stay on the wall.
Well, I'm hoping that they'll keep that size, but they will put all of the maps together, or release a globe with them on, or something.
That'd be amazing.
I want something with all of the maps on. But I've just
want
gone
all
for
of the maps.
ones.
TM.
I just want all the maps.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I don't ask for a lot, Doug.
What we need is a Freya Ligan game world on a single world, somehow stitching all of the game worlds together into one Alice.
Yeah.
Never happen.
No.
But if it is going to happen, then I want my 20% of the profits. Thank you very much. That'll maybe go somewhere towards the StreamYard license.
Okay. So what are we talking about first?
Okay. We've got 2 sci-fi and 1 fantasy, so we should probably mix them up a bit, shouldn't we?
Some fantasy in the middle, maybe.
Yeah. Should we start with the Let's start with the oldest. Let's go in the very oldest, which is Battlelords.
Okay.
Battlelords is really interesting in that I remember Battlelords books when I was looking at tabletop role-playing games in, for me, the early 90s, the beginning of my tabletop role-playing stuff. I remember seeing the books, not really being drawn into them, even though I love science fiction. I just, for whatever reason, I think because BattleTech was around as well, and therefore they had a kind of similar aesthetic from what I recall, and it just made it kind of diluted what was available, and I didn't really know anything about either of them. Obviously, they're not the same. The Battlelords had a kind of a reissue, a resurgence. They redid it as the 7th edition fairly recently, in the last couple of years. And currently on Kickstarter, there is something called the Battlelords RPG and Fully Armored Gear Manual. And let me just see if I can share my screen. Hang on a second, because my machine is being really silly. Let's try that again. It's because I had the other thing. There we go. So it's kind of cool. The video is kind of interesting. I'm going to press play on it and turn the volume down, because I think this is actually a really interesting game world. But from what I can tell, from reading the quick start, etc., basically the idea is that we're kind of in the future, still Earth. I'll turn that audio off because there's speech I hadn't factored in. There's some kind of intergalactic threat, the arachnids, I think, coming to attack, and one of the other civilizations in the Milky Way has come to Earth and gone, you're kind of a bit screwed, so here you go, have some technology, help us fight this awful threat. And there's like a dozen different races you can play as, and Battlelords themselves are the most double hard bastards that are on the battlefield, and they're considered superstars and like the creme de la creme of the armed forces, kind of your ultimate superhero status. And the game is about that. Effectively, you're a battle lord, I think. Might be wrong there. From one of these races, you're going into these kind of war zone situations, and you're fighting off the opposing threats. What's interesting about it from reading the quick start is that it's not all super heavy, hitty, smashy, but there's quite a lot of crunch when it needs to be. So I think that's quite an interesting decision, in that when you look at the system, there's loads of tables, there's hit tables. It's a percentile roll under. 00 is a crit fail, 1 is a crit success. So I think for me personally, with the type of games that I'm running at the moment, it's probably too crunchy, too mathematical for me. But at the same time, I think it's really, really awesome, honestly. The game itself is a successful game. It's a small company. I know our good friend Doug from Victory Condition Gaming is friends with the designers, and has said they're really great guys and girls, and the product itself is really stand out there. There are plenty of reviews on YouTube about the product as well, and it's loved. In terms of what we can see on the interior, actually, it's really nice. This is the quick start, which you can get from Drive-Thru RPG for free, and the layout is nice. So it's a timeline of everything on there. I was going to see if I could just jump to some of these, and we can see the artwork is really cool. Not necessarily particularly super contemporary, but I mean, these guys are wicked. I'm biased, we're a cat household, but yes, that's almost enough to make me buy it. As I said, there's lots of tables. Tables for your races. And as we are looking at a quick start, it's quite easy to get to these things. So yeah, as I said, lots and lots of tables for things. And that's not a bad I'm just laughing at the comments. I'll come back to it. It's not a bad thing if you like a highly tactical, combaty sci-fi game, which many of us do. Then, in fact, it really hits, kind of hits the spot there. Little maps and stuff. I really like it. I like it a lot. It's not overly expensive. You're looking at formatting's gone a bit weird on here. $50 gets you the new book in PDF and print, and $100 gets you the original core rule book and the new book in print and PDF and whatever scratch skulls. And then there's $150, so £113 gets you, I'm gonna refresh this page, gets you everything that's currently available. All of the things, there we go. So that's the rule book, the fully armored, which we'll go into in a second, but it's basically a gear manual, so it's got a whole load of extra cool bells and whistles. Charlie Foxtrot, it says there, which is the worst kind of cake. No one wants a Foxtrot. It's gonna really suck. Very gamey. But that's a scenario rulebook, Charlie Foxtrot. Warmonger's Guide, I don't know what that is. Deck plans. So what is the fully armored? Let's have a look. So that's the rule book there. It's a book with all your gear in it. So it's got the weapons, the armor, I think there's some extra like enemies and stuff in here as well. No, maybe not. It's weapons, armor, new equipment, and that gives you an idea. As I said, this book full of tables. The system is very crunchy. It's 200 pages of new things to shoot people with, which, if you're into a tactical game, is it's really going to help.
Yeah, I mean, I started to read the quick start for this, and I
Stops really quickly.
you know what, I felt my eyes glazing over when I got to some of the rules.
Yes.
But
No,
instead of closing it, what I actually did was I kept reading through it because I thought I was coming on tonight. So, and actually, there was a standout section in the quick start for me, which really kind of almost won me over. Even though it's a crunchy game, it's the kind of game that I would not back usually. But then I found this
There's
page.
something about it, isn't there?
Yeah, there's page 7 in the quick start, and it says reoccurring themes of Battlelords, and it's
Yes.
got 5 themes. Theme 1 in the trenches, so it's like grunt in the trenches. It's going to be hard. You're not going to have the right equipment. You're basically in a failed capitalist society where you get pushed out and you have to fight people. And you don't have the right equipment. Theme 2, overcoming racism and stereotypes. Yes, I want that actually in games quite a lot. Theme 3, runaway capitalism, like I already said. That's a theme I want to tackle with warfare. Theme 4 is the haves and the have-nots. You're living in a world where there's this rich society that is they've taken you and they've put you out on the front line, and they don't care whether you survive or not. And then theme 5, dark humor, because that's how people cope with warfare. And all of that, like I read that and I was like, you know what? Actually, like I'm really liking this game a lot more than I thought I was going to. So I'm kind of teetering with this one, even though it's not my bag.
Totally get it.
It's
Totally get it. There is something really nice about it, and there's something about the way that it's been. I mean, you can tell that there's a pedigree, right? I think that's probably what it is. They've honed it over quite an amount of time, and it shows. And they've really thought about everything that they're trying to achieve, and I think it's better for it.
And you know what? I think if I hadn't recently read and watched some actual plays of Band of Blades, which is Forged in the Dark, kind of dark military fantasy game, I wouldn't be quite as won over by this. But it's kind of like that, like the very other end of the gaming spectrum is kind of creating a feedback loop where I'm like, actually, I'm quite interested in a game that tackles similar themes but in a different mechanical way.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of the place where I'm at as well, in that I'm not going to back it because I can't get it to the table. It just won't happen. I don't have time enough for the things that I've got already, and there are more things coming. And more importantly, I don't think anyone in my local group, and I think this is a game that would benefit better actually in person to play. I don't think that'll be something that would hit the table even if I had the time to run it. But I really do like what they've done with it. And I think that if you don't already have it and you're looking for a crunchy sci-fi game, not only is this not a new kid on the block, so they've had 7 editions to really think about this game and how they want to deliver it. And that's excluding any minor revisions along the way. But also they're demonstrating that they're changing with the times, I think, as well, by declaring those expectations right there and thinking about what's important to society and what's important to the role-playing hobby right now as well. And kind of giving you a sense of flavor of what people will be fighting for. I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
I really
definitely.
do. I did also have a look at the interior art. Let me just see if I can bring that up as well, because there's another free, and annoyingly the PDF plugin won't let me do side by side on this, which is really pissing me off. But this has got, that's exactly the same one, because I'm good like that. Yeah, it looks like it's almost exactly the same thing, but there is a bit more art. This made me laugh. So where was that comment? Yoel said, Ragmonk isn't that cool. So it's a bit of an Easter egg.
He's just jealous.
He's
just jealous.
I mean, that is definitely a sniper links, right? Anyone who, I might in fact adjust how he fights now. Anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, we're playing a game of Mutant, one of the Swedish editions of Mutant that's not been translated into English, and I'm not going to bother trying to mispronounce it just to, make Joel laugh at me again. Martin can do that because Martin lives in Sweden.
Which one is it? What's the actual adventure called again? I can't remember the title.
Regnbågens slut.
Oh, Regnbågens slut. At Rainbow's End.
Yes.
Is that at the end of the rainbow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's great. And basically it's Mutant. So
yeah.
And my character is a Lynx who's a sniper. So there you go. That's the long and convoluted backstory. If you're interested in watching old versions of Mutant being run with a new version of Mutant Year Zero, with an old scenario in English, with a Norwegian GM, and a bunch
lots
of
Swedes. Qualifiers there.
In a campaign that's been running for about 6 months and has had 2 sessions. It's on YouTube. We've got a playlist of 2 sessions. It's been going for 6 months or something.
It's very good, by the way. It's very good. You should watch it if you're watching this stream.
It's been a lot of fun. The only reason it's so infrequent is because, bless him, our games master is suffering from living in the sticks. He lives in the middle of nowhere, or as we like to remind him, he's about 30 meters away from good internet. But hopefully this will resolve at some point. Yours says, wish there were more module scenarios, adventures hitting Kickstarter rather than new games. Feels like very few games get any more material than the first release, and I kind of miss that aspect today. I think, to be fair, probably there's some bias in that I tend to try and show new, at least for this show, I tend to show new products more than I do adventures and scenarios. That said, Merkbury has yet another scenario that got released onto Kickstarter this week, I think a couple of days ago.
There's an OSC. There's an OSC adventure that's just been released. Exalted Funeral were pimping on Twitter. There's quite a lot, but I quite a lot of them are OSR, and I know Yoel has a bit of a problem with OSR.
I don't think so. I think it's just that we need to remember that the OSR is its own genre, which is not necessarily related to what is actually an old school game. OSR now does not reflect what OSR was. It's a new type of game.
Yeah, we have to remember that OSR as well, for in different places is different things. I mean, OSR for Swedes is nearly a decade after OSR for Americans. So D&D came out in 1974, and
but I don't think OSR is really that.
The old came out in 1983.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I don't think it's even that. I think that OSR is not really representative of old school games in the same way that modern, old school heavy metal is not really quite the same as how heavy metal was in the 70s and 80s. You know, it might share a kind of kindred spirit, but it's a new beast with an old school flavor.
Yours corrected me. 82. It was 83 that he started playing. I think that's why 83 stuck for me. But
you know too much about your.
He loves to tell that story about when he first played DoD. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of really good stuff that comes out that's OSR kind of centric, but you can spin it off into other fantasy games so easily. You know, like this that I showed earlier. You know, you don't have to run it with old school essentials. You could kind of retrofit it into most OSR games. It wouldn't take a lot of work. So
yeah,
you know,
absolutely. But in terms of expansions for other games, I mean, we see things like the big ticket items, the cults and stuff like that. It does happen, but yeah, we tend not to focus on that. We should do that more. I think it's probably worthwhile. It draws attention to systems that are established and we know work. There is a new game though that we are going to talk about after we go through. Just make sure that we haven't missed anything off with Battlelords. I think so. The early board, the early board has gone. the early bird has gone for that because this campaign has been running for a little while. But the full edition is, as I said, $150. You get the core rulebook, fully armored, which is basically your weapons locker, Charlie Foxtrot, which is a bunch of quick, short scenarios. So you could make a little campaign out of that. Could probably give you enough flavor to feel comfortable running something larger. Warmonger's Guide, which is a bootcamp PDF, spacecraft deck plans, and a bunch of stretch goals. There's some cool stretch goals. Like, actually, I've got a bit of a bugbear here. I don't like stretch goals where when you hit them, they give you the option to buy things.
Yeah.
In that, I kind of feel like that should be there anyway.
I suppose it depends what the stretch goal is.
I mean, I'm talking specifically about the stretch goal of a t-shirt.
Okay. I mean,
there's not really any setup fee for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it was that they were going to commission an artist to do some new artwork to put on a t-shirt, then I wouldn't understand it.
Or at least, or everyone at the very top level, the $150 level, gets a t-shirt or something like that. Then I'd understand it. But the stretch goal, you can get a t-shirt. It's an add-on. For me, and a lot of companies do this, and even like Free League do things similar to this. So it's not like a direct attack at these guys. They're putting out a great product.
I mean, you see
it bugs me because I can't imagine, and I could be wrong, I can't imagine that there's any difference in or any like major setup fees for this. Maybe it's just a risk, but I mean, you can buy the Dark Orb t-shirt, for example, for it's not going to cost you 30. No, me either. I'm wearing a Dungeon Crawl Classics one, but I promise you, I'm not going to request that you spend $35,000 on Patreon before I'll make them available. We do have a Patreon, which you're welcome to check out. But I'd much rather, if you're new, come and talk to us on Discord first. Links down below, along with other links for other things. And please like and subscribe and all that stuff if you're enjoying the show, or not if you're not. But yeah, it bugs me a little bit.
I think I think one that I see it on quite a lot is miniature games as well, where they're like, and this will go into a possible add-on set that you can buy, and it's like, oh, okay, like you didn't already have that planned.
I agree, but at least you can kind of understand that if it was a smaller company, so I don't mean like Core Mini or not, but a smaller,
Mm.
less profit-driven company, that
Yeah.
maybe they do need to hit a certain level to get the tooling. Because I know tooling for PVC minis, for example, is really expensive.
Yeah.
For a t-shirt, they've probably already got the art. They've probably
Mm.
had the art sitting in a drawer for 2 years. Just got to slap it on. Anyway, doesn't matter. If I was buying this, I would buy the t-shirt anyway. So let's not pretend that I wouldn't do that.
All in Phil, as they call him.
That's one of my many names. Jason says D101 are doing a reboot of Cyberpunk RPG. I'll check that out. Been quite a few interesting things. Dark Orb t-shirt and a mug. I appreciate that. I was using my mug earlier, but something happened at some point throughout the day, and it changed into a different one. I'm not quite sure how that happened. Maybe the other half, maybe she abducted it at lunchtime for I don't know, some insert reason here. But it seems to have changed colour. But yeah, it's been a strange day. Now, don't be silly. And
you always have to take it too far.
I know, that's just ridiculous.
A picture of a mug on a Dark Orb t-shirt.
That would be fine.
Now that.
Oh yes, and you'll soon get a mug on Patreon. That's true. Those of you that are the top tier backers, thank you for your support. We'll get a mug through Patreon soon.
Yeah, you suckers.
Well, you're helping me keep the lights on.
He says being a top tier. Never mind.
Helps me keep the lights on. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly really helps. Let's move on. Let's talk about Red Giant, because I think it's really interesting. Really interesting. In fact, as I started reading the quick start for this, I got even more interested.
Hang on, is this a stream where we have both actually done our homework for it? Because I read the quick start for both of them as well. Both of these.
It's unprecedented times. That's what it is.
It is.
I'll turn this down when he starts talking, if that happens. A rules-light tabletop RPG from the creator of Overarms. Cannot save the world.
All described in detail a day long
turn it
ago,
down now.
where the sun suddenly...
Yeah, we don't need to hear that, because we can do it worse.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love the art style for a start, and I'll show you the quick start in a minute. It's really nice. I was a little skeptical when I was first reading through it. I just thought that the this bit at the top, the rules light tabletop RPG inspired by anime like Berserk, Claymore, and Vampire Hunter D, set in a cursed world you cannot save. We talk about devious dungeons, foreboding forests, and the coolest cats in the tagline of the show. So anything that's kind of grimdark, I am drawn towards. I run Mekbori, Morkborg, for anyone who's not Swedish, and Simbram, among other things. The core concepts there obviously appeal. But scrolling through the page, I was unsure. Wasn't sure I liked the layout that much. Excuse me. Then I actually started looking properly into it. And I love this. Red Giant is set in a world where the sun has expanded and bloomed into a cursed crimson light that bathes the world's surface, an enemy to those who still walk the planet. The arrival of this cursed sun causes ancient beings and horrors to become unearthed from their eternal sleep, left once again to roam the planet, destroying everything in their wake. And I just think the way that this has been written is quite elegant. I really like the not all of the written word is perfect, but the way the attention to detail with the language that's used, even in the quick start, is really great, and it sets the tone very well. It's a very simple system. Basically, you want to attack, you roll your attacking stat for your weapon. It opposes against the dexterity stat of the thing you're trying to hit. and if you win, you win. Then you roll damage, which is mitigated by their armor, for example. Yeah, so you have your strength, your reflex, your mind, and your charm. The reflex is your dexterity stat, I think. The artwork is really interesting. I'm a bit disappointed that it's print on demand as opposed to offset printing, but I kind of think I might overlook that and actually pick this up.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the look of it. One of the things I really like about the because I was a bit like you, I started to look at it and I was a bit like, what, like, is this something I want? Is it overlapping too much with some other games?
Yeah.
And then I started to read into it, and I like the fact that whenever you roll, you always roll 2 stats. So you've got strength, reflex, mind, and charm, but you would always roll 2 of those. So if
that's illegible now.
so you know, if you were kind of dodging falling boulders or something like that, I think is one of the examples, you would roll strength and reflex together because you're using your reflexes and a bit of strength to push yourself out of the way.
Let's see if I can share this on proper reader. Keep talking.
So rules wise, it's fairly simple, and you basically got you got your 2 different types of rolls. So you've got your there's a difficulty, you're trying to achieve something against the world, which is a difficulty is set, you try to achieve it. But then you've got the acting against PCs or NPCs, and then that's always you're rolling against them. So and it's whoever gets highest then. So you've got your opposed rolls as well. And it's just really simple. They call out Ryotama as an inspiration for the system, and that's a game that I love.
I never played it actually, or read it for that matter.
But you know, one of the things that really kind of won me over with this was what they call the exchanges, which when you're building your character, you've got these where you exchange something for power. You know, sometimes it's a part of your soul. And I mean, one of them is what is it? It's called Bone Witch. This is in the free preview. You gain 12 mystical bones, and you may toss one bone and make a simple wish, which will be fulfilled by supernatural forces. The downside of that is that you only get 12 of them, and each time you use it, one of the bones in your body breaks. And it starts with like a small one, like your finger, and the very last one, your neck snaps and you die.
Yeah, it's super dark.
So it's like you can exchange for this, like, you know, you can make wishes. And I think as a GM, I'd probably be tempted to, like, as the more pain comes, give greater wishes as well. Just to kind of balance it a little bit in that way. But yeah, it's some of those exchanges. Those were what really won me over with this one.
I totally agree with you. I mean, we say straight away on like the 7th page of the quick start. It's an incredibly bleak setting. The world contains dangerous, violent, horrific, and filled with death, which immediately makes me think of Mork Borg, in terms of it's not asking you to pull your punches. And I'm a fan of games that encourage you to just see where the story goes. And that doesn't mean that the game has to turn out violent or dark or bleak. I mean, you can have an incredibly edgy game that actually doesn't do any of those things, but it's not telling you that you have to hold back, or, you know, you have a setting which is already quite dark. This thing of here, look, the no one knows how the red giant came to be. Some people believe it was an act of God. Some believe it was due to ancient technology. But no matter how this planet became cursed, it's clear that you cannot save this world. And that's enough of a start to give you a kind of setting notes. But yeah, as Martin just said, the characters are really interesting, and there's a bunch of them. So character creation's super simple. You've got a few different ways that you can distribute the points. Personalities, really quick. You can roll for your personality, the flaw, your past, and your misfortune. Then you get the archetypes, and they're really kind of cool. The hunter, once per day, you may find 1d4 rations, able to precisely locate wild animals, and as long as you damage the target once, you're able to track it. Well, that's fun.
Yeah. I think there's only 4 in the quick start, but there's 10 in the full game.
Yeah.
And the exchanges, I think there's like 40 in the
love
full
this.
game. So
flock of crows abide by your will and will follow your every command, but you are indefinitely blind.
yeah, I mean, and I think at character
so
creation,
much tone here.
you can choose up to 3 of those. It is like, I think it's open that you can, it's like, yeah, you can choose them, but there's downsides,
Yeah. Yeah. I really like it. I think it's.
I mean,
there's enough flavor here that you can have a lot of fun, even without being an anime fan. In fact, probably that might even help because it then gives you even more or less likelihood that you'll slip into those tropes, and you can just actually go wherever your imagination is going to take you. I'm not a fan of how they've redacted things in here. I understand why they've done it for the quick start, but I don't like it, and I wish that there was some form of, and I don't think there is, from what I could see, some form of like mini scenario baked into the quick start, so you can give it a spin. It definitely feels not like a quick start, more like a sample, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, games are the stories you tell, and the adventures are the kind of the framework that you hang those stories upon. So if you don't include anything like that in a way to showcase your game, are you really giving much of a game?
Yeah, I agree.
When we're talking, often when we're talking about games that we've played that we've really enjoyed, it's the stories we've told together. It's not the dice that we've rolled. So yeah, that's a disappointment, but there's enough in there with the exchanges and stuff like that to make me at the very least go in digital.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That. And to be honest with you, because it's print on demand, the difference between digital, which is $15, and the soft cover of $20 is really just the shipping that's going to screw you over, because particularly for you, I mean, because print on demand, I would presume, is going to be Drive-Thru RPG. That's printed out for you guys probably by Lightning Source in Milton Keynes in the UK, and so you're then going to have to pay import tax on that. Thanks to Brexit.
Thanks, Brexit.
Yeah. But I'm in the UK, so
so screw you guys.
You can pick it up from me when you come to UK Games Expo for my birthday next year.
Okay. When's that?
3rd of June, 4th of June, 5th of June.
Okay.
And you have to stuff Yoel and Robbie and Krista and Kjetil and Andreas from Sweden Rolls in the suitcase.
Yeah, they're much easier to transport when they've been dismembered, so I'll get to that.
Yeah, you're going to have to play like Cult or something first at the table in order to 12 candles, something. Yeah, absolutely.
Just lie still.
You're going to thong them. But anyway, so I actually really am impressed with this, much more than I was when I first started looking at it. It was that description that kind of first drew me to it, but the more I looked at it, the more impressed I became. We should probably cover the pledge levels, so let me just grab that. Going back into here. So Scotty, there's a quick start. You guys have all seen the layout, guys and girls. I'm not a huge fan of some of this art, I'll be honest. It's not really to my style, but the layout is super clean and impressive, I think. And it's not that expensive. I don't know what else Rookie Jet Studio have done, so I'm going to check that out in a second. but you're looking at $15, £12 for the PDF. PDF and soft cover, print on demand, is $20 or £15. £19, $25 gets you the hardcover print on demand. And then there's a limited edition, which I'm not sure I love, which is this red one. Actually, I kind of think I prefer the original cover, but I'm not sure. There's an extra $5. I missed out on, and then there's some bundles like you can get 2 copies of the PDF and then one of each of the books, softcover and hardcover, or a softcover and limited edition, or hardcover and limited edition hardcover, or a complete bundle where you get loads of PDFs and then print on demand of each of them. Even I'm not going to go for one of those. I don't think there's enough variety there. Yeah, I think I prefer the standard edition of that. I'm a bit gutted they're not using Mixam or something for the printing. And that's a shame. And I'm also a bit disappointed that I missed the early bird edition, because I saw this game when it first got announced, because I check Kickstarter every day for this show. However, I hadn't really paid enough attention to it. I didn't give it enough, I didn't give it credit where it was due. I hadn't really had time to look at it properly. And then probably like an hour or so after that ended, I kind of went, oh, actually, no, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think there's something about it that doesn't make a good first impression.
I don't like that art. I don't like the art on the cover. As much as I prefer it to the red limited edition cover, I mean, it just looks too much like kind of looks like a grey for the aliens.
Yeah, there's something about it that for me it didn't. Because when you first posted it up in the Discord about you were considering it, I was like, oh, what's that? And looked at it and thought, But then as I read more, and that's a shame, because Kickstarter, I think, for someone who's just going through new RPGs and seeing what's out, if you don't make a good first impression, you probably don't get it back. So it's a shame, because I think there's some interesting stuff in there to be played with.
I agree. I mean, they're successful, which is great. Whereas I think I'm right in saying that the Battlelords hasn't hit funding level yet. I think this will do a lot better. I mean, obviously, the goal was only $1,100, so $1,500. So they've smashed that, and because it's print on demand, obviously, that's better for them. They can set a lower target, as did our friend Paul with Weird Space RPG. Because you don't have to think about proofing costs and all that sort of stuff to the same extent. Yeah, there's not really much more I can add on this, because it's just actually really pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say, if you're vaguely interested, give the quick start a read, because there's some good stuff in there that might, it might push you one way or the other. It's worth a 5-minute read.
Yeah, it sets the tone really well. I don't know if they've got a scenario in this. I didn't quite finish reading the entire page, but hopefully they've got a scenario or two in here, and they'll build out some more. That's, I think, what would make this, is if you get enough people creating content for it. It's one of the reasons why Mothership has done so well, apart from the fact it's just a phenomenal book with incredible printing, is that the community built around it is so strong. And I think that's really important now more than ever.
I mean, it also helped that the adventure that was in there, whether you like it or not, has one of the best adventure layouts I've seen for
so cool.
for readability. It's just I'd never seen one as good as that until I saw that, and maybe that's just because I haven't had experience with them. But for OSR style, the legibility on it and being able to find what you want straight away, it was excellent.
Yeah, and they've really set a tone on how future scenarios could be written for that game as well. With that first scenario in the Mothership book, which is Rock Black Sludge, Yeah, the way it reads is just great. You can pick it up if you're relatively new. It's very easy to follow. It's not a linear scenario entirely, but ultimately there is a very straightforward path throughout that scenario, even though there are multiple paths to the same kind of eventual conclusion, I would say. Yeah, it's great. So hopefully Red Giant will have something similar. I think it's really important to get people on board and then to start generating content, make sure that other people feel comfortable in creating content for your game, even if it's not going to necessarily directly profit you. If you can sell more of the book, then that's going to help. There's one more that we had on the image on our foundational page there, and that would be Mothership.
It's doing well. It's going to beat
Doing
1 million.
very well. Yeah, quite easily. And there is good reason for that.
What is it in dollars now?
We'll have a look in a second. I'm leaving the audio on for this one, I think. It's so cool. So cool. But we won't play the whole video.
I'm not actually getting any audio from it, Phil.
Well, damn it. No one bothered to tell me until now.
Sorry.
Right, fine. I'm going to do it again. Screw you guys. That audio is so cool. I'm really disappointed now. That's really strange. Let's do it again. Do it again. There we go. I'm not going to play it all, Bruce, because it'll cut into the creators giving an interview, and I should probably try and get them on. It's just so good. See, now I can do that, and
now we know what you're doing.
Oh, I wish I had alcohol in this glass.
I'm Alan Girding.
And I'm Sean.
That's good enough. I will now cut the audio, and then you can just watch them. We can pretend. We can put words in their mouths. Buy our game. It's really cool.
I'm American. I design games.
They're really awesome. You're all gonna die. You're gonna die with a D100. Yeah. Anyway, Mothership. I played Mothership once. We do intend to get Mothership on the channel. In fact, Eric Alfando of Rain in Blood fame has kindly offered to run Mothership for us. We had some massive scheduling. I work with Americans and they say scheduling and we say scheduling. No, other way around. And I just ended up saying both and neither at the same time. That was fun. Yeah. Eric has kindly offered to run Mothership for us when we actually get around to arranging that game. There've been a couple of misfires on that, but it was launched before the Alien RPG came out, and just took the indie TTRPG world by storm. And got bigger and bigger and bigger, much like Merc Borea. It's a very simple no. Martin, you're muted, so if you tried, I didn't hear you.
Am I muted?
Oh, and you're not now. I thought you tried to say
Okay.
something.
Goedemorgen.
How was that, your? So Mothership RPG took the gaming world by storm, at least indie tabletop role-playing game world by storm. In part because it embraced that same community thing that we've seen with Matt Borey as well, which is just make scenarios for our damn game and make them cool. Yoel says that was close enough. So congratulations. You win a swig of your drink. I'm surprised that Yoel could type it, because normally he can't type the simplest of words, to be fair. And I played Mothership once and loved it. It was one of my, I've said this many times, one of my two favorite sci-fi role-playing game experiences. The other being Traveller, which was run by our good friend Exius, who is in the live comments right now. Like this, there you go. See, told you he's in the live comments. That was great fun, Traveller. Mothership is D100. It's definitely got its roots in BRP. And you play one of 4 character classes. Generally, you're on a spaceship and something horrible is going to happen and you're all going to die. There you go. That's it in a nutshell. And it's a sci-fi horror. There are definite calls back to Alien, Ridley Scott variety of Alien, more than the James Cameron Aliens. Definite calls back to Blade Runner, and those sorts of films from the 80s. Really, it's really, really awesome. Friend of the show, Bruce Cunnington, who is a professional DM and GM. Check him out if you can find him. He's really cool. Ran Mothership. He's actually running Mothership at Dragon Meet. I think it's sold out. Running that on the Saturday morning of Dragon Meet. And if there is a session left or a seat left at his table, grab it. So good. Here we go. In fact, he is right here. Professional anything. Event Horizon, yes, as well. Event Horizon is definitely a great inspiration for Mothership, and is also my favorite horror film, I might add. I'm a huge fan of Event Horizon, even though some of the special effects, the CGI special effects at the beginning of Event Horizon are just shocking. But I love it. I really wish that hadn't gone through development hell, because the original edit would have been so much more interesting. It's kind of like The Shining and Hellraiser in space.
It's Sam Neill, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, and Sean Pertwee, I think, is in that as well. And a few others as well. Great film. Check it out.
Yeah. I mean, I just add on to that about Mothership that Sean McCoy, the designer, has really done an excellent job of building a community around the game as well. Like you were saying, getting people involved. Really kind of pushing people that are creating within a game, because it's very easy. You see it sometimes when people create games and people start to riff on them, and they come out and they say, "This is my property. What are you doing?" Whereas a lot of the indie scene seem to be a little bit more forthcoming. Sean Pertwee deaths are always sad.
Yeah.
A lot of the indie scene seems to be a little bit more like, well, you know what? Actually, it's good. It's good if people create within my space. I mean, look at my boy. They don't make any money off any of the third party stuff.
No,
at
they
all.
didn't make any money off the original printing. From reading the interview with Johan Nor and Pelle Nilsson, basically they said, yeah, we just poured all the money that we got into the print. All the profit went into the print to just make it better. I mean, hopefully they're making money off the sales now that they've finally gotten to that point, but they didn't on the original. It's a true labor of love. And I think Mothership, no one could have predicted that it would be as successful as it has been.
No.
and it's rightly successful. It's great fun, and it's so
Yeah.
elegant. I've not run it, as I said. I've played it once. It was all too long ago. It was, I think, towards, and it turns out Bruce, a good friend, Mork75, is in the chat. So Bruce, if you're still watching, I want to say that was at the beginning of lockdown that we did that. So yeah, goddamn ages ago. And I still remember how much fun that was, even though it was, I think, Bruce's first time running it. That didn't show because the way that he ran it, of course, as well. Summer 20, yeah, probably about that. Yeah. Don't know. A lot of this will be because Bruce is a great GM, and I'm just going to say that. But at the same time, having a great game goes a long way to, helping to bolster your confidence as a GM, regardless of whether you're a new GM or a really experienced one. Being able to just pick up a book and go, I get it. And Mothership is one of those where there aren't that many pages, and you pick it up and you go, yeah, I understand what we're doing here. Might take a while to get the system down. Combat can be a bit crunchy, but you get it. I don't have that memory at all. I mean, you probably recorded it, so you've probably gone back and looked at it. But I don't have a memory of us spending too much time looking over the rules. And I suppose also I don't mind that, because I think it's sometimes interesting to get the rules right so that you can understand the outcome better. But I just remember it being a really great action game with some interesting horror, and yeah, it was good fun.
I think they some of what Bruce is saying in the chat there about whether they'll kind of fix some inconsistencies. They do mention on the Kickstarter page that they are going back and making some changes, some kind of quality of life changes to it, and I think that's largely why Sean McCoy has waited a while, because he hasn't. If you look at the development team for this, he's got on there some people that if I see their names on a project, I will usually just back it straight away. There's Jarrett Crader, Fiona Maeve Geist, Luke Gearing, who did Acid Death Fantasy of Troika. I mean, if I see those names attached to a role-playing game, my mouse cursor's already over, like scrolling through the rewards to see which one I'm choosing. There's a good team on there, and they've been working on this. They've been working up to this for a while, tweaking, testing, live testing. People are playing it.
But I think maybe, and Bruce's pointed out, for a small book with a few rules, there were some issues. And I think that's where, if you don't know the history of it, the fact that there's this brand new Kickstarter for a game that's been out for a couple of years, and it's called, and if I just go back to the top, First Edition, that probably sounds a bit confusing. How can it be First Edition? It's been around for ages. You're just reprinting the same thing that's been out for ages. Kind of not exactly, because it wasn't First Edition before.
No, exactly. It's been more. I mean, originally it came out as like an Ashcan, and then I remember seeing an exchange on Twitter where someone was saying that they remembered when Sean was kind of shopping it around at one of the big cons in the States, and people and that was largely going to the gaming halls and just saying, I've got this game, do you want to play it? That's how you get word of mouth out there, and then you build from there. And
absolutely. Our friend Dave Beatty with his Weird Frontiers, what was Dark Trails RPG, the Weird West Dungeon Crawl Classics, did exactly the same thing. And his Kickstarter was very successful. Rightly so. I can't wait to get that book. It's like 1 million pages, so I think I'll run it from PDF, but that's another matter. The thing that I really like about this campaign, really, really like, is no matter how much you put in financially from the tiers that are available, you're going to end up with a great set of content. And let's just show what I mean by that. For $60, you actually do get the survival guide, which is effectively the kind of the core rule book that we've seen previously, the Warden's Operations Manual, which I believe is more like sort of the GM book, and then some other stuff and a stretch goal, and you get other stuff. Like, I mean, look, you get just in the core set, you get some dice, you get the screen toolkit. It's like some sort of map, a patch. That's kind of cool, considering this was an A5, almost just a zine, you know, and it's grown to this. Andy is in the comments is saying that you know, the changes are fan feedback and that the community is amazing. Yeah, the community for this and the community for Merkbori are almost two sides of the same grim dark coin. I think that those two games between them have just kind of transformed the role-playing scene to a large extent, in terms of how these small games that no one had really expected to flourish have actually set the bar for independent games. That's my feeling anyway, in terms of the, you know, they are very, even Mothership, even though it's very simple in its design, is quite artful in that element, in the same way that Merkbori is very artful in a very different vein, because it's incredibly art rich and it's actually quite hard to pass. But between the two of them, with the way the Mothership is laid out, it's almost like a manual itself. I think I've got the PDF. Let me see if I can find it.
I think the major difference that a lot of indie creators would want underlined is that whereas Merkbori, they secured publishing and distribution through Fria Ligan,
Yes.
this is a truly indie endeavor, in that there is no big publisher handling that for Tuesday Night Games, which is basically two people. You know,
Yeah.
this is going to be the first indie RPG that hits $1 million, because they are
maybe.
not using a big publisher. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think any indie RPG has actually hit $1 million.
Well, I guess the other question is, at what point do you stop calling a small company indie? I
Well-
don't know how we define that, because
Well,
if you
there's no. I suppose
do
there's
you know
no
what I mean, in terms
publisher.
of, I mean, even
It's
with
two people, so I mean, I
well,
would say
but
that's
they are the
pretty much.
publisher, I would say.
Yeah, but they're not. They've not got another publisher in to handle distribution for them, which is what Merkbori did.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think this is a completely indie endeavor. You know, they've secured this all
I guess
themselves.
what I'm saying is, at what point does an independent publisher stop being an independent publisher, if actually it's still a relatively small company? I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not trying to be difficult.
I mean, I would say that it's probably, the line there is probably indie, small press, and then a bigger publisher. Small press will be someone like Evil Hat. I mean, two people producing a book isn't Evil Hat. So I would still say they're firmly in the indie bracket.
But I don't think, I think Evil Hat are probably have a bigger turnover, at least until recently, than Fria Ligan, for example.
It's hard to know. Evil Hat publish all of them of what they make, and it's not very much.
Yeah.
Fred Hicks is very open with what they make.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's something I really like about Evil Hat. Actually, if you look at any of their campaigns, they're really transparent over, you know, the actual turnover and the profits, etc.
Yeah, Bruce says independent of what? I would say independent of having to answer to a publisher, which is what most people have to when they produce a book.
But if they are now the publisher, then
they answer to themselves.
Yes, which is the same as Fria Ligan.
Yep.
or
Yes,
Evil
but what I'm
Hat.
saying is it's not the same as Johan Nord and Pelle Nilsson because they're not part
Right.
of Fria Ligan.
But they only used Fria Ligan in terms of as a print house. They didn't actually,
And
because it was
distribution.
yeah, but it's workshops, so I don't know whether Fria Ligan had any say in the product. Is what I mean.
Oh no, it's not. No, it's just the fact that all of publishing and distribution is being handled by Tuesday Night Games.
Mm.
They're not outsourcing it to anyone. So this is a
Yeah.
truly indie endeavor. It will be the first indie RPG that hits 1 million bucks because no other indie RPG has done it.
Don't know.
I mean, they haven't.
Well, what I mean is, the moment that Fria Ligan did that, surely they were an indie RPG that hit $1 million because they are an independent publisher.
Yeah.
Or or our good friend who published Seventh Sea, and look how well that went.
I don't. Who's that?
I was trying to remember the name of the guy. He ended up having to get bailed out by Chaosium. That Seventh Sea, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean,
John Wick.
Yes, I would say that it would be very hard to argue that 2 people producing a game isn't an indie.
No, what I'm saying is,
Producer
I
of
think technically
games.
Fria Ligan and the other games publishers that we consider to be big industry are probably closer to indie than we give them credit for.
Yeah, I think. Well, it's a discussion. It's quite a big discussion, but I would say people that are getting licensing rights to Aliens and Blade Runner aren't really indie. That you don't secure those kind of things if you're an indie publisher. They certainly started off that way. I think they may be beyond that now.
I'm not sure. We'll have to ask them at UK Games Expo next year. We'll
Yeah.
just go up to them and say, "Are you an independent publisher?"
Just go up to them and say, "What's your turnover?" so we can compare you to. I'm sure they'll be happy to give you that.
No, we just have to ask them if they're indie and see what they say. Should we
Yeah.
talk about this damn game? So, Mothership
Yes,
Core
it's very
Set.
good.
Mothership Core Set is $60, 45 quid. You get a bunch of stuff. It's all really cool. Then you've got the deluxe set. You get more stuff. You get basically all the additional zines of scenarios like Dead Planet, Pound of Flesh, Gradient Descent, which go in and out of print all the time, or not necessarily in and out of print, but distribution, at least in the UK, they can be quite hard to find at times. Had a look, they are currently available from places like, I think Leisure Games has got it. So if you want to save a bit of money and you don't want to wait, you can certainly go and get the current printed version of the Player's Survival Guide and Dead Planet, Pound of Flesh, Gradient Descent are available, and it is cheaper, but you won't have the version 1 of the Survival Guide. You won't have the Operations Manual. You won't have contact reports, and you won't have the swanky box with the Warden screen and the mappy thing and the dice and the patch and the other patch. In fact, there might just be one patch there. You don't get the swanky box. Quite like the swanky box, even though it doesn't fit on the shelf. Well, it might do. Say 5. You could probably turn it on its side, make it A4. Yoel says he can find the free league turnover in 2 minutes.
Nice.
We can do an in-depth view of profits and
Yeah.
sorry guys in free league. And then you've got what would normally be the full edition, the Mothership Mega Bundle, which is basically both boxes. Now, I'm not quite sure. It does have other stuff as well. We'll talk about it in a second. I'm not quite sure why you'd want to get both boxes. Other than that, you also get like a T-shirt. fine.
Is the other box the one that holds the like the adventure modules pamphlets as well, or because
Well,
I think there was a box that, or is it just supposed to hold both?
so. It looks like you get the core set, the deluxe set, and then there's a storage. I don't think it's indicated well here, but there's a Mothership storage box as well. It might be in the update somewhere. Maybe that puts everything in it. I don't know. I mean, it just gets to the realm of a very large box that doesn't quite fit on the shelf for me. I would be inclined, particularly if you can buy the t-shirt separately. Personally, this is what I would go for, the deluxe set. And I think that's what I've backed, actually. So, free league turnover, 140 grand. That's not a lot.
Yeah, it's not indie though.
Well, if they're
I mean,
independent, then it is.
well, I mean, they're yeah, I suppose. I mean, I think the thing is though, like yours checking Swedish taxes, so they run a year in arrears. So he's saying 2020 taxes, so that's actually 2019. But unless it's the ones that are printed this year, in which case that is for them.
Profit.
Yeah, profit.
140 million, 1,000.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I think like people were saying in the comments, it's a discussion for the ages. I think
Yeah.
most people would consider indie people kind of it when you're kind of working and it's out of your garage where you've got storage and you know you're not signed to a label, as it were, a publisher in this instance, which you know Fria Ligan work as a publisher for other people as well with the workshop. You know,
Yeah,
they
for one
also
other
have.
people, yeah.
So I mean, you know, this is like two people putting a game out. So
Yeah, but I think Free Ligan's only like 5 people, 6 people, something like that. It's an interesting conversation, but it's
it
not
is.
really
It
talking about Mothership.
rages on Twitter a lot, to be honest.
And you do spend a lot of time on Twitter, Martin.
Yeah, you know, it's just there. It's easy to have on in the background to see all the little the little fights.
Yeah. Stretch goals. So look, more horrors, Warden screen, assets. We all like Warden assets. A faction toy box. We all like toy boxes. A conversion kit so that you can put some mods on your box. Designer commentary, a crew patch, shipbreakers toolkit. Core rulebook dedicated to building, buying, breaking, and battling ships, as long as that ship battling is better than the battling in Coriolis, because I love that, but it just takes so much time. Right. I think we can kind of wrap up talking about Mothership here by saying if you haven't already backed it and you like sci-fi, spacey horror stuff, what are you waiting for? Of course, unless you can't afford it, in which case, please do check out the PDF version. I think there's also a community, like a free copy you can get of the current version of the core rulebook online. I could be making that up. It's really great. It's really good fun if you like that sort of genre. Bruce says, come to the Dark Orb Discord for an extended indie fight or discussion. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks, Bruce. Current game is pay what you want. Yeah,
Yep.
So it's worth looking at. There are some discrepancies. It is a little bit challenging with some of those rules. We've got 2 Bruces talking at the same time, which is getting really confusing. It could be better written. So do you know what? They went and did it, and that's what this campaign's all about. I think Martin's right, and that it probably will get over £1 million, or definitely will get over $1 million. Apologies for the noise in the background. The cat has decided to start eating. So there's probably what sounds like a bell ringing right now.
Cat's got to eat.
Yeah, I know, but she could have done it an hour ago.
Selfish.
I know, very, very selfish. Yeah, Venberg, really, really cool to see you. Thanks for joining. Here's a question to my Swedish friends, and I'll include Martin in this. How are we in Sweden pronouncing cyborg? Because
I would say
Morkborg is
cyborg.
Merkborg.
Yeah,
I
but I
know,
would say cyborg,
cyborg.
because
Yeah,
Borg, in this sense, they've just turned it to the
I
English. It
know, but
doesn't
it's no
mean.
fun. Cyfort.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
exactly.
Cy short for cyan, and it's like a blue castle.
Yeah.
It's like Newcastle. Blue
No,
castle.
I don't Cybury.
I mean, that's what we did in the 90s on ICQ and IRC, but that's a different thing entirely. Yeah, it's like a don't know what you're talking about. Mothership, have a look. It's really cool. There are some other things on right now. I'm sure that our good friend Martin has got at least one project that he'd like to highlight before we wrap up.
Oh God,
I've got plenty,
loads.
so I've huh?
I've got loads.
I'll let you pick a couple. Let's do it.
Okay, all right. I'll give you a chance to bring them up if you want. The first one is
Hang on. The Bori part is pronounced the same way as Mark Bori. It's Mark Bori and it's some bloke. As we
What?
Mech.
Mac, boy, Mac.
Hey, you must be from
Hey,
Liverpool.
Mac. Okay, right. Let's
Sorry,
hit
Joel. Love you.
it. He's from Hull. No.
He's from
Okay. Hull.
Hull.
Right. The first one is Latam Breakout
Oh yeah.
by Soul Muppet Publishing.
Oh, I hadn't realised it was a Soul Muppet one. I did see this.
Yes.
It didn't jump out at me
No.
personally as in something that I would want, but that's beside the point because it's
Yeah.
not. Every game is not for every person that looks at it. It's still very cool. Let's talk about it. Go.
Yeah. 5 different games, 5 different creators, all from Latin America. Soul Muppet have gathered them together and they are going to be publishing it because, as we all know, Kickstarter is great, but not for people that aren't in certain places in the world because they are not allowed to use it. They are not allowed to publish using it. So Soul Muppet have taken it upon themselves to gather them together and help them get these games published.
Which is cool.
There are 5 different games in there covering all types of games, really. They're very, kind of off the wall games. I think one of the creators in there is also one of the ones that was on Slayer's Almanac. And I mean, I backed this straight away, just because I want to see creators from different places get a chance to be promoted. Really, I mean, one of my favorite adventures from Old School Essentials is by a LATAM creator in Diego Noguera.
Yeah.
So for me, it's worth it. I don't think it's fully funded yet.
I think
been slow.
I think it is now. Oh no, not
Has
quite.
it? It
Nearly.
wasn't. Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
grand
It's
left
getting
to
there.
go. It'll
It's
get
getting
there.
there.
24 days. It'll succeed.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can spot what any of these games are about. Brave Zenith, Ultra Eterna. Here they're the
Yeah.
monsters creating mayflies and cantrip. Very quickly, in the comments, because we are live, there's a whole flurry from our Merc Bori. We've got Merc Orb, Merc. What's herb?
Merc
Dark
herb.
Merc Orb.
Merc orb.
Borg. Now, I will actually say that There isn't one here. There isn't one that quite resembles it, but Merc Orb with an O without an umlaut over it is my is our username for my Discord username on the Merc Bori Discord, because Merc Orb is Dark Orb.
Nice.
So that worked quite well. Borg. I like that one. Orb.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyone who doesn't speak Swedish, which includes me, that little circle over the A makes it like an kind of an OA sort of sound. It's kind of whoa. That's basically all I remember from the Swedish lessons I started nearly 2 years ago. Right, let's go back to what we were talking about.
Yeah, so where it says Luna there, that's the creator that Ultra E Eterna. That's the one that did one of the districts in Slayer's Almanac.
Ah, cool. So we got the games. Post-fantasy tabletop RPG set in the world inspired by Brazilian culture and long summer nights playing JRPGs on a pirated PS1. That's pretty cool. And there's some artwork here. Vocations, freelancer, mixologist, thief, capybara, half capybara, half. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm getting it now. That's pretty fun actually. That's very Troika. Ultra Eterna. Years 2000, repeated number. Everything sucked for a while until the people of the capital city ousted the government. Portal to hell opened. Now everything sucks again. Equal parts deadpan and unapologetically gonzo in its execution.
Yeah. Bit of a love letter to Apocalypse World. And
yeah, that cover kind of reminds me of, oh God, what's the name of that? Fiasco. Don't know why.
Yeah.
Here There Be Monsters, rules light response to monster hunting media, Hellboy and BPRD, Middle Finger 2, okay. SVP, Men in Black, Laundry, World of Darkness. Explicitly queer, anti-fascist and anti-capitalist game. I can't possibly stand up for this social justice. I can, of course, it's great. That's very, very cool. And I do actually really like this artwork. I think it's wonderful. Except that flat tires just driving me insane. Mayflies, adventurers in a world of flying isles, going from island to isle in search of resources for their own Earth. Too many isles.
Yes.
Should be Mayflies Isles. This artwork is very interesting. Reminds me a little bit of Dave McKean. Cantrip, belonging outside belonging game about young witches attending a magical academy, grappling their place in the world at large. Well, that's very JRPG sort of style, that. Or anime style, at least. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you can back for one.
Yeah.
Or you can back for all 5, I think.
Single staple bound soft cover copy.
Yeah.
Digital collection, physical collection. It's a shame that I can understand why they're not doing it, but it's a shame there's not like a single volume book that has all of them in. But at the same time, it's probably quite nice to have them independently, because then each author, you can track profits and pay them an appropriate amount, which is good. Yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. 50 quid for all 5 games in physical. £10 a game. Yeah, £10 for an RPG is pretty good going, really. Let's face it.
I mean, I think it's worth a back. I backed it.
Bruce says Latam feels like what Kickstarter should be supporting more of these things. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But it's just out of reach due to timing. Yeah, I've got the same problem, to be honest with you. But that's very cool. Time for one more.
Only one? Okay.
Only one. We've been going for 1 hour and 49 minutes.
Okay.
1 hour and 50 minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. 6 seconds.
Okay. Right. We'll do one.
Do one, Martin.
Do one. Right. This one is because you know what the other one that I was gonna do. It's already a project that they love. It was down in Yongadi, a Troika solo adventure. Screw that. It's great. I backed it.
Yeah.
You should back it. But the one that I actually want to focus on is RPGC, which is Southeast Asia, and it's very similar to the Latam Breakout. RPG. It's Reach of the Roach God, part of 1,000 Islands. That's the name of the. Sorry, get rid of the RPG.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That one. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's part. Yeah. It's it's part of RPGC. So RPG Southeast Asia, just like RPG Latam and RPGC, both on Twitter. You'll find loads of creators on those hashtags. And basically I posted it in the Discord. It's system neutral RPG campaign inspired by cave systems in Southeast Asia. So
interesting.
Like your world was saying earlier in the show, adventures and things like that, they are coming out. These things are there if you look for them on Twitter. It's
about knowing. Well, sometimes it's about actually being able to find them. They're not always very obvious. And I think as you said this earlier on, a lot of them are OSR. My issue is a lot of them, in fact, aren't even OSR. They tend to be 5th edition and run 5th edition. This is This is neutral. This is just a setting, if you like, I presume.
Yeah.
It's a campaign, but you have to tailor it a little bit for whatever system you're running. And you could tailor this for almost anything kind of fantasy, I guess, or even take the contents of this out of Southeast Asia and put them into a world quite easily. You could land and this could be the first thing that people find on another planet. There's a lot of versatility for these sorts of things. The artwork is really interesting on this one.
Yeah. I mean,
it's Splinter.
I really like it. Yeah.
And Chewbacca?
Yeah.
No. Anyway, the art is really cool. And too far. 127 minutes, £7,000 almost of 43,000 of 7,000 goal. They've done really well. In terms of the cost, scroll all the way down to the bottom, as we always do. Holy and May Go tier, 42 quid, hardcover copy of the book. This is definitely one you'd want in hardcover, I think. Or PDF for 21 quid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is literally double to get it in hardback. But they're going all out there with how they're presenting it. You know? So it's like the kind of book that you would find on your grandparents' bookshelf.
I mean, I really like the look of it. It's the kind of book that I can just imagine taking off just to hold it and smell it.
Yeah. Smell the book, Martin. Smell the book.
Smell the book.
Preview. I mean, the interior. Here we go. Yeah. It's really nice. Really, you can see they've put a lot of attention to detail with the layout. It's not crammed with text. They've actually spaced it out. The layout here reminds me a little bit of the stuff that Gauntlet puts out. The Gauntlet publishing people. Just in terms of it's very minimalistic, but it's really easy to follow. Some interesting information about the type design studio that's done it. Stretch goals. I don't think they're doing much, if anything, are they, for stretch goals?
I think. Yeah, I think it's basically to make the book as good as possible.
Yeah, there are some special rewards which are all gone. Yeah, it's looking rather nice. Oh, here we go. Here's the stretch goals. More art, paying people. Why would you do that? Action figure cave generator. Fair enough. Random cave and river generation mechanics for use with your favorite physical action figure. Okay, I can't get my head around what this actually means, but I presume there's some kind of website or software that I don't know. More playable characters, some printout tabletop tokens. That's quite nice. They've got some nice art, so just formatting that in a way that you can use it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Won't cost them too much to do, but layout is not cheap. When you're a perfectionist trying to do layout, it's very time consuming and therefore costs money. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, as we said, it's 42 quid. 75 is that. Where are they based? Is it Singapore?
I think they're Malaysian.
No, Malaysian, yeah. Dollars. So we can get an Action Man cave. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what you can get. Just back at the highest level, that's what you'll get in the post.
Yeah, Action Man cave system though. The original ones that are like big old figures with the moving eyes.
The question that Bruce has put there about getting it in the UK, I would imagine that will probably be quite easy because a lot of UK games publishers like Soul Muppet and Rooks Press stock their other work, Thousand Island. So
Yeah.
I get the impression they've already got a deal with them.
Well, in the FAQ, actually, not wanting to contradict you, it says we've been looking for an EU-specific distributor for the last few months. I think that's no avail.
EU rather than UK. I think in the UK you're fine.
Maybe, yeah.
Because they already, like I say, they already sell through Soul Muppet and Rooks Press.
I misunderstood you. Sorry. I thought you were just sort of generalizing. Yeah, I mean, in which case I'll probably be fine.
Yeah, you guys will be fine.
I mean, you know,
I'll just have to get it sent to my parents and then post it over.
No, you'll just have to pick it up when you're over for UK Games Expo.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah.
I'll come and ask Free League if they're indie.
Yeah, let's do it. Speaking of indie, next week, hopefully we're going to have an independent role-playing game writer with us for this show in Paul Baldowski. Keep your eyes on the Discord to find out if that happens. And we'll tell you later in the week. Trying to think if there's anything I'm expecting in the post. Hopefully, the Genesis will turn up this week. They haven't shipped it yet. I'm a little bit nervous about, but I did speak to them via email, and they said basically they were, as I said earlier on, they're waiting for one of the final bits of publication to arrive so they can then start packaging. I know that some of our friends have received Mercury Heretic. That's arrived. Mine has not. I've not received my email from Games Quest telling me that something that arrived yesterday is on its way. So hopefully that'll turn up tomorrow or early next week. That would be really cool. I think Cult is going to arrive soon as well. The like scenario stuff and the Forbidden Book, etc. I think I've even got a T-shirt ordered for that. So that was great fun. I think that's it. I think we are there for the evening. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. It's been a really we've got a lot of chatter in. I really appreciate it. So thank you to Andy, to Yoel, Jason, Bruce, Mohammed, Neil. Who else do we have? The Bruce Squared. I'm just scrolling. I'm sure I've missed someone. If I've missed someone, Wenberg as well. If there's anyone else I missed, I'm really sorry. If you've not been on that list and I haven't seen you pop up at all and you've been typing things and we haven't seen you, Facebook's doing some really weird things with regards to comments, so that might be why. If you want to join us through YouTube or Twitch, then generally speaking, we get those notifications a bit more reliably, just so you know. hope you've enjoyed the show. Please do the liking and the subscribing, and join us on Discord. It's free, and we'd love to see you there. We also have a Patreon, which really helps us to keep the lights on. And other than that, I guess we will be back same time next week, all being well, to talk about, among other things, Cyborg, Body, Cybery, Cheeberg, whatever you want. The Cyberpunk Morkborg. There you go. And the Cthulhu Hack, which I'm really interested in. I'm sure there'll be some other cool stuff coming. There's always some really interesting things that just pop up at the last minute, like that Red Giant, which I'm really, really intrigued by.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. Tell us what you're backing. Join us in Discord, or tell us in the comments what you currently have backed from the last couple of weeks. And we'll see you next week. Until then, it's goodbye from me, and
See ya.
goodbye from mine. And hope your dice rolls are way better than mine. Take care, everyone. Ciao.